So what we need to do to be able to create this raised planter box is draw up a quick plan to find out what exactly you're looking to do. So for this planter, what we're going to do is we're going to make it 24 inches in width, about 48 inches long, and that's going to allow us to have a nice big open space to be able to plant some vegetables. And this is the cut list, or rather the build list that we need. So what we're going to need is 4 4x4s that we're going to, rather 8 of them, but we're going to cut out to be 30 inches in height. That's going to allow us to have it at a good height to be able to bend over and use. Then we're going to need 16 cuts of 2x4s that are 48 inch long. That's for lengthwise of the box. Then we'll need 16 cuts of 2x4s again for the 24 inch side, and then 12 cuts of 2x4s and 48 inch for the bottom of this box. So that means our most efficient cut list was actually to go with 16 of 2x4s that are 12 foot long, and then we needed 3 of the 4x4s and 8 inch lengths. So that's basically what we need to get going. So let's get cutting and make everything happen. I should also mention, as far as tools and hardware, we're likely going to need a jigsaw. So I've got my Ryobi jigsaw, a impact, a drill. Then I've got some bits and drill bits there as well. Of course, a chop saw. And then, because we want these to be able to roll, we've got these small 3-inch wheels that are going to mount right to the bottom, and a handle on the end to be able to lift up and kind of move them around just like a wheelbarrow. And so that's the parts. We also got some deckmate screws, 2.5 inch in length, and that should be the right stuff. So to get this going, I've got our 3 4x4s that we had to go out and purchase. Then I've got actually 17 of these 2x4s by 12, and the reason I got 17 instead of the 16 that the cut list asks for is so we can make a mistake. Alright, so our first cut here is going to be for the legs. To do this, we're going to want to go ahead and measure out 30 inches, since that's the height of the legs that we're going to do. Get the 30 inches lined up, then you want to just check the blade, make sure that lines up perfect, and we'll make our first cut. So that's going to be our first leg. Now remember, we got to make 4 of these. Next step is we need to make 4 more that are 30 inch, but take into account the casters that are going to go onto the bottom here. So if we go ahead and we take a look, we get the caster lined up. Take a little scribe mark. You'll see that we need to cut off about 3 5/8 of an inch. So we need to be about 3 5/8 short on our 30 inch cut here. Let's line that up to what we have right here. We're just going to check our cut. If you add in the depth of the wheel, that's perfect. So we're going to go ahead and make 3 more cuts of that height. A quick trick I like to line it up where the blade is actually right on the tape measure. Drop the blade down, and then you can pop the tape measure right out, just to be sure that you've got the right size there. That's going to be our cut. And now we got all 8 cuts of wood here. And that's going to be for 2 of these flower beds, 4 cuts for each. Next, what we have to do is get our casters onto the bottom of the 4 legs. It's going to be 2 casters per unit here. But so how we're going to do that is just line the caster up roughly straight. Doesn't have to be perfect. We'll just mark out some holes here because we're going to want to pre-drill for the screws. The reason we're pre-drilling is we're going to toss in some 2.5-inch long screws here, and we want to make sure that it doesn't split the wood or that sort of thing. So to do that, I'm going to use a 9/16 or rather 9/64 bit. Toss it into my drill here, and we'll line up with the center of those holes. Let's get these going. That's going to give us enough room to do that. Now you'll see the caster will go back on. Be nice and even here. Next bit is we'll take one of our screws here. This is T25 on top. It's an outdoor decking screw, which is nice and useful because it's not going to corrode. And we'll start sinking some of these guys in. Not going to tighten them up all the way until we got all 4 in. Get these guys unscrewed. So now once all 4 are in, screw those puppies down. Now we've got a caster on the bottom of this leg. So on to the next here. And now we have our 4 30-inch legs are for 26 3/8, all with little casters on them. Next up is we now need to make the cuts for the sides. Now remember, when we go back to our cut sheet here, to do that, we're going to go ahead and, because we've knocked out all of our 4x4 cuts, now we need to make quite a few cuts at 48 inches. Those cuts at 48 inches are going to be, you can see them right there. So we're going to make 16 for the sides and 12 for the bottom. So let's get at it. All right, so we've got our 16 cuts for the sides. These are all 48 inches in length. The next cuts we're going to want to do is we need to get 12 cuts of 24, or sorry, 12 cuts of 48 as well, and that's going to be the bottom. And then we'll need 16 cuts of 24. That should size up everything we need. We've made some progress. Now we've got 12 cuts of 48 inch, 16 cuts of 48 inch. So we've got the sides and the bottoms. Again, we've got 4 cuts of the rear legs and 4 cuts of the front legs. And now our last thing we've got to cut is just going to be 16 cuts of 24 inches. So let's get to it. Now we're done with our cuts and it's time to start assembling. We've got our 16 cuts here of 24 inch, 12 cuts of 48, 16 cuts of 48, 4 cuts of 30, and then the remaining 4 cuts of 26 3/8 with the casters. Time to start putting together. All right, now to start out, let's set up our short sides here. To do this, we're going to be lining up the corner edges as tightly as we can. Tighten these guys up here. We've got our 4 screws in there. Let's flip this around here, and I'm going to want to line this one up too. Again, we want to make this as square as possible here. So that's now one side. So next up, we're going to do the longer of the two sides right here. So we'll line this guy up nice and flush, just like we did the first one. Alright, now that we got our sides together, next step here, it's going to be setting these guys up lengthwise. Let's get this zoomed out so you can see what we do next. So this is going to be setting the distance up here. Again, going to want to go as level as we can. Two into there. Now two into the 2x4 that's on the edge. Just like that. Now we'll get the other corner set up here. that side done. Now you can kind of see where it's going here. So we'll flip it over and get the other side lined up here. Alright, and as you can see here on this end, it's a little bit off. Let me bring you in a little further. So we're just going to tighten that up, and we can make this go right into place. To do that, I've got my handy clamp here. As you can see, we've got that pulled into square. So let's go ahead and throw some screws into this. A good trick to keep these from cracking, or splitting rather, is put your screws in on an angle. And that's going to help from having that happen. Now we can pull the clamp off, and you'll see we're getting somewhere. So that is kind of the first step. Now we just need to add the sides and the bottoms, and that's going to be our raised planter. All right, now that we have both of these built up together, it's time to lay down the bottom strips. And these are going to have small gaps, but we're going to try to make them even here. That's so when we put the plastic liner inside of here, there's a space for the dirt to be able to, or rather the water to get out. So let's get these lined up. So just like that, and we'll sink some screws in. All right, so those guys are on. As you can see, we still have pretty big open space. But that's because we're gonna need to cut this down. So what I'm gonna do, just take a quick knife edge, line this up where I want it to be, and make 2 little spots for me to be able to mount this up. Perfect. So that's cut. All right. So the final piece here, we've got to measure out how long we're going to want our braces to be. Do 1 along here, 2 and 3 of them. In this case, they need to be just about 24 inches in length. So I'm going to cut up a couple more 24s. There we are. Let's go ahead and take these. Toss them on the inside here. Take a look in there. It's going to be one nice finished product. The only thing left is get a handle on the end, put the plastic liner inside, and then fill this guy up with some dirt. So let's get this lifted up. Got our new handles here. Center right into this middle one. See, it'll even come with its own screws. There you are. A rolling flower bed. All right, our next step here is we got to use a compressor and a staple gun. Then we're gonna put to use some plastic sheathing. What this plastic will do is this will help hold in the dirt as well as the moisture. This is 3.5 millimeter sheathing that we grabbed right here. All right, when we take the liner, drape it over the end there. overall, these weren't hard to make. I'll have some links for you to be able to know exactly what parts and what stuff you need to purchase to be able to build these. But pretty easy. It was about $200 with tax for everything down to the screws, the liners, the wood, every piece. Now there were a few tools that we used that you don't necessarily have to. So keep in mind you can do this a little bit more low budget as far as tools are concerned. But I use sort of the standard tools that I have hanging around here at the house. So we'll get them planted up. I'm sure I'll take some pictures and post those up later on once it has things growing in it. But these are a great addition to the yard and will definitely be used for quite some time. Thank you and good luck building your own.